My wife made fun of my stupid startup dreams in front of our friends laughing. He thinks he'll be a millionaire. Her boss chuckled and said, "That's cute." But when my app sold for $8.3 million, I said, "Guess I'm stupid rich now." Her jaw dropped as I handed her the divorce papers and said, "You can keep the house. I'm keeping my self-respect." I always hated those awkward dinner parties Mariella loved throwing. You know the kind. Cheese boards with names I couldn't pronounce, overpriced wine no one really liked, and people who all pretended to enjoy each other's company while silently comparing salaries and zip codes. She lived for that crap. The curated Instagram moments, the candlelit photos, the casual bragging. Me? I was just trying to make it through the night without saying something dumb. That particular evening, our place was packed. The whole open-concept kitchen was full of Mariella's co-workers and a few of our mutual friends. Though truth be told, most of them were her people. I'd been cornered for a while by some guy named Spencer who was talking about crypto like it was a religion. I sipped my drink, nodded, and kept glancing over at the charcuterie like it could save me. That's when Mariella called out from across the room. "Babe, come tell everyone about your little app." There it was. That tone. Like I was her kid showing off a crayon drawing. Everyone turned to look. I swallowed the last of my beer and walked over, feeling about as confident as a teenager at prom. It's an app I've been working on. For contractors. Like, to help them with scheduling, bids, that kind of thing. Basically streamlining communication on job sites. I saw the polite nods, blank stares, and then the smirk. Clive, Mariella's boss. Slick hair, expensive watch, the kind of guy who always finds a way to mention his Tesla. He leaned back in his chair and let out a small laugh. "That's cute," he said. "Got your first million yet?" Everyone chuckled. Not a big laugh. Just enough to make my face feel hot. Mariella waved her hand. "He thinks he'll be a millionaire from it. Isn't that hilarious?" She looked around for backup, laughing louder than anyone else. I forced a smile. Guess we'll see. But inside, I was burning. I excused myself and went to the kitchen, staring into the fridge just to get away from the eyes. She joined me a minute later, wine glass in hand. "Don't be so sensitive," she whispered. "You know I'm just playing." "Sure," I said, not looking at her. "Honestly, it's not a big deal. They were just joking." "Yeah, hilarious." She rolled her eyes and walked back to her people. I stayed behind, staring at the magnet on our fridge that read, "Love means supporting each other's dreams." I bought that damn magnet 2 years ago. Seemed like a joke now. What no one knew that night was I'd been grinding on that app for over a year. I'd been coming home from my job, project coordinator for a mid-sized construction company, and going straight to the basement, coding until 2 a.m. watching tutorials, fixing bugs, testing features, rinse, repeat. I hadn't asked for her money or her help, just her belief. And I couldn't even get that. It wasn't just the startup. Lately, things between us had been off. She was distant, always on her phone, always with Nikki, her new gym buddy she talked about like they were soulmates. But I'd never met Nikki. Not once. SX. What SX? Conversations felt like job interviews. And when I did talk about the app, her eyes glazed over. One night, she actually said, "I miss when you used to just come home and watch shows with me. You used to be present." I didn't know how to explain that I was trying to build something. For us. For our future. For me. I guess she didn't want to build her. She wanted someone who'd already built something. A few months passed, and I kept my head down. The app, nailed down, was finally stable. I'd posted it to a few niche contractor forums, and the feedback was surprisingly positive. Then I got an invite to a startup pitch event in Portland. Nothing big. Just a room full of early-stage founders and a few investors looking for something scrappy. I almost didn't go. I'd have to miss Mariella's friend's birthday dinner. But I knew if I didn't put myself out there now, I never would. So I went. I was nervous as hell. My pitch was shaky, my palms were sweaty, but I got through it. Demoed the app. Showed them real-world use cases. Afterward, a guy named Ron from a construction software company approached me. Said he liked my approach. Said he wanted to talk more. I didn't think much of it. I'd had people say let's talk before. But this guy followed up. We had coffee. Then Zoom meetings. Then NDA documents. Then he brought in his team. And one day, there it was, a formal offer. $8.3 million. It didn't feel real. I read the number 5 times before calling my lawyer buddy to confirm I wasn't hallucinating. They wanted the whole thing. App, rights, users. And they wanted me to stay on as a consultant for 2 years, 6-figure salary, full benefits. I sat on it for a week. Then one night, Mariella came home around midnight. Said Nikki's yoga class ran late. I was on the couch, laptop open, pretending to watch a documentary. She went straight to the shower. Her phone buzzed on the table. I don't know what got into me. I'd never snooped before. But something felt off. I picked it up. No password. Rookie mistake. And there it was. Not Nikki. Clive. Messages. Photos. Videos. "You're amazing." He has no idea. Can't wait until we don't have to sneak around. God, the way he talks about that stupid app. I sat there frozen. The blood in my ears was louder than the TV. She came out of the shower wrapped in a towel. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said, placing the phone back quietly. "Everything's great." I didn't sleep that night. I lay there in bed next to her, staring at the ceiling fan as it spun in lazy, taunting circles. She was snoring softly, completely unaware that I knew. That I had proof. Part of me wanted to shake her awake right then and there, hold the phone up to her face, demand an explanation, scream, cry, something. But I didn't. I just lay there, completely still, letting the weight of it all settle over me like a suffocating blanket. In the morning, I got up before she did, made coffee, and sat at the table scrolling through the messages again. It was worse than I remembered. It wasn't just the cheating. It was how cruel they were. I swear he still thinks it's going to make money. He gets all excited like a kid. Maybe I'll offer him a job at my company when it crashes. Give him something to do. I didn't even recognize the version of me they were talking about. That morning, she came into the kitchen wrapped in her robe, hair in a messy bun, eyes still half shut. She kissed me on the cheek like nothing was wrong. "I have a meeting at 9. Can you take the car in for the oil change today?" she mumbled. I nodded. "Yeah, sure." That was the moment I decided. Not to scream. Not to fight. To plan. I signed the paperwork for the sale that afternoon. Then I called my lawyer. "Can we do this quietly?" I asked him. "You've got leverage now," he said. "We'll make it clean." I started moving pieces like a chessboard. Opened a new account. Shifted assets. Put a deposit down on a loft in Denver under an LLC. Started packing things slowly. Just my stuff. Just what mattered. Tech gear. Notebooks. My dad's old tool set. A few photos from before we got married. I kept everything quiet. Played my role. The loving, clueless husband. She never noticed. She was too busy texting Clive under the table. Or going for runs, and coming back freshly showered, but with dry running shoes. Once I tested her. She was in the kitchen, phone in hand, smiling at something. I walked in and said, "Hey, Nikki texted me. Said she hasn't seen you in a while." Her smile faded. "Oh, weird. Like we've both been busy." I just nodded, poured myself a glass of water, and said nothing else. Inside, I was screaming. I started going out more, too. Telling her I was meeting developers, working on some new idea. I'd just drive to the coast, walk on the beach, and think. Not about her. About after her. The divorce papers were drawn up 2 weeks later. My lawyer was surgical, clean cut, no room for arguments. I made sure she got the house, the furniture, the car, but not me, not the money, not a damn thing more than she deserved. Still, I waited. I needed the right moment. Then it came. Another dinner party. Same setup, same people. Clive was there again. This time, even bolder, standing in my kitchen like he owned it, talking with Mariella like they were already a couple in public. No shame. I wanted to vomit. But I didn't. I smiled, poured drinks, played the host. Let her think she still had me wrapped around her finger. "You seem relaxed lately," she whispered to me while handing out plates. "Yeah," I said. "Things are finally falling into place." She smiled. No clue. They all sat down at the table. Spencer was there, of course, talking about NFTs again. Mariella's friends were laughing about some winery tour. And then she said it again. Like clockwork. "So, babe, any progress on that app?" she said, smiling sweetly, twisting the knife in the same spot. Clive laughed before I could answer. "Still working on that $1 million dream?" That time, I smiled too. I leaned forward a little. "Actually," I said calmly, "I sold it." The room went quiet. "Sold what?" she asked. "The app. Nail down. Sold it 2 weeks ago." You could hear a pin drop. "How much?" Clive asked, trying to sound casual. I looked him in the eye. 8.3 million. Mariella laughed, short, nervous, disbelieving. "You're joking." "Nope." I pulled out a small manila envelope and placed it on the table in front of her. "What's that?" she asked, still not getting it. I took a sip of my wine. "Divorce papers." The color drained from her face. Clive looked like he'd swallowed a bug. I didn't say anything else. Just let the silence fill the room like thick fog. Her fingers hovered over the envelope like it might burn her. Everyone around the table sat frozen, forks midair, conversations sliced clean in half. "What the hell is this?" Mariella finally said, her voice low and sharp. "What it looks like," I said, leaning back in my chair. "Divorce. I've signed it. Just need yours." "You're not serious." "I've never been more serious in my life." She laughed, the kind of laugh people give when they're panicking and don't know where to aim it. "Is this about that dinner a few months ago?" "Oh my God, you're being ridiculous." I didn't say a word. "I was joking," she snapped. Everyone was laughing. "That's what friends do." "You were laughing at me," I said, my voice quiet. "You weren't joking. And even if you were, there's more." She blinked. "More?" "Yeah. Like how you've been screwing your boss for, what, 6 months now?" Her breath caught. Clive shifted in his seat. "What are you talking about?" she said, too fast. I pulled my phone from my pocket and slid it across the table. One swipe, and the screen lit up with their texts. Screenshots. Photos. Audio files. One by one, faces around the table started turning away, staring at their plates, pretending to read wine labels, suddenly desperate to not be there. Jesus Christ, muttered Spencer. Mariella's hands were shaking. Why didn't you say anything? She asked, her voice now a whisper. I wanted to make sure I had everything in place, I said. And to be honest, I wanted to see how far you'd go. Clive pushed his chair back, standing up abruptly. All right, no, I cut him off. Sit down. You don't get to run from this yet. I'm not having this conversation with you in front of people, he snapped. Oh, you'll want to stick around, I said, locking eyes with him. Because I sent everything to your wife. Not just the texts. Everything. You should expect a call. His mouth opened. Closed. He looked at Mariella like she was supposed to fix it. She looked like she was trying not to throw up. I stood up slowly, grabbing my glass. You said I was chasing a fantasy, I said calmly. That my dream was a joke. That I was wasting my time. Her eyes were glassy now, red-rimmed and wide. I couldn't tell if it was from shock, guilt, or both. Well, I said, tipping the wine to my lips. Turns out that joke made me a millionaire. I turned to leave, but paused at the kitchen island. Picked up my keys. Took a long look around the room. The people, the smells, the tiny remnants of the life I'd built, and the one she'd casually ripped apart. You can keep the house, I added over my shoulder. I'm keeping the freedom. And just like that, I walked out. I didn't go far that night. I didn't have to. I drove around the neighborhood for a bit, letting the cold air and quiet streets calm the fire still burning in my chest. It was strange how fast a person could go from being your whole world to just another name you wanted to erase from your phone, from your life. I parked outside an old diner I used to hit up during my early contractor days. One of those places that never updated the furniture, never changed the menu, and somehow always had the same waitress working every shift. Coffee? She asked, not recognizing me, but offering the same tired smile I remembered from 5 years ago. Please, I said. I sat in the booth with my phone on the table, screen lit up with a dozen missed calls and messages from Mariella. Mari, please call me. We need to talk. You're overreacting. This is our life. Don't throw it away. Please. I didn't mean any of it. Clive doesn't mean anything. Just come home. Please. I didn't reply. I couldn't. Not because I didn't have anything to say, but because if I started replying, I wouldn't stop. And I wasn't about to let her twist this into a debate. This wasn't up for discussion anymore. I was done being the guy who compromised everything for the person who gave nothing back. I left the diner a little after midnight and checked into a hotel on the north side of town. Nothing fancy, just clean sheets and a door that locked. I laid on the bed, fully clothed, staring at the ceiling in a strange mix of relief and heartbreak. Even with all that had happened, even knowing the betrayal, I still felt the sting of letting go. That's the thing people don't tell you about divorce. It doesn't feel like revenge or closure right away. It feels like grief. Like mourning the death of something that you once believed in so hard it hurt. The next few days were a blur. My lawyer got the ball rolling fast. Mariella had finally responded with her own attorney's contact info. There were no kids, no joint business. And since the prenup was ironclad and the money from the sale came after separation proceedings started, there wasn't much she could claim. Still, she tried. I gave you the best years of my life, she said in one of the few calls I actually picked up. You're not just going to walk away like I meant nothing. You gave me your contempt, I said flatly. You and Clive both. You don't get to rewrite history now that the tables turned. There was silence on the other end, then quiet crying. Not the sobbing kind. The embarrassed, broken kind. I didn't say anything else. I just hung up. Word got around fast. Apparently Clive's wife did get the email I sent her, and she didn't take it lightly. Rumor was she filed her own divorce papers within a week and served him in the middle of a board meeting. His face apparently went redder than a fire truck. Mariella's circle? Half of them ghosted her. The ones that didn't, well, they weren't exactly lining up to defend her. Her little dinner party crowd had scattered. Some stayed in touch with me, quietly sending, damn, I didn't know all that was going on. I'm really sorry, man. Texts like they were passing notes at a funeral. And through it all, I kept my head down. I met with the company who bought the app every other week, helping them scale the platform. I hired a designer and 2 junior devs to continue polishing the interface under their brand. I even invested in another guy's project, a smart tool for on-site inspection teams. Felt good to use what I'd learned to help someone else make their first leap. But when I went home each night, to the Airbnb I'd rented while I waited for the Denver place to be ready, it was quiet. Really quiet. And that's when the doubts crept in. Not about her. Never about her. About me. Had I wasted too many years? Had I built something just to destroy something else? Did the dream I had justify the destruction it left behind? There were nights I looked at old photos. Not just of us. Of me before all this. Laughing with her in Mexico, building our first IKEA bed together, celebrating when I got promoted to project lead. Those moments weren't lies. But they weren't truth, either, not if they led here. One night, out of nowhere, I got a text from someone I hadn't heard from in over a year. Heard about everything. I'm not going to say I told you so. Just proud of you. Camila. She was a friend. Kind of. More like a what could have been. We met years ago at a networking event. She worked for a tech nonprofit. We hit it off instantly. Great banter, real conversations. But I was already with Mariella, so I shut it down before it ever became anything. Still, she knew me in a way that stuck. Thanks, I replied. It's been a ride. Coffee sometime. I stared at the message for a long time. Thought about what it meant. What it didn't mean. What I was ready for, and what I wasn't. I didn't answer that night. I wasn't running anymore. But I wasn't rushing either. I was just letting it all settle. A week passed before I replied to Camila. Coffee sounds good. Been a while. We met up at this little cafe on Alberta Street. The kind of place with local art on the walls and the smell of roasted beans soaked into the wood. She looked the same, better, honestly. Confident. Easy smile. Eyes that had always seen a little deeper than they let on. Didn't think you'd actually text back, she said, handing me a cup. I almost didn't, I admitted. Not because I didn't want to. Just, I'm still sorting through the mess. She nodded, no judgment. You look like someone who's finally breathing again. I chuckled. Feels like I'm learning how. We talked for a couple of hours. Not about the past, not about Mariella. Just life. What we'd been doing. Where we were heading. It felt light, but grounding. Like a reminder that there was still life out there. Authentic. No games, no masks. Over the next month, I tied up the final threads. The Denver loft was finished. Industrial-style windows, exposed brick, lots of natural light. A clean slate. I made one last trip to the old house. Our house. For the remaining boxes Mariella had set aside. She wasn't home. Probably better that way. But I left a note on the fridge. You can keep the house. The friends. The wine nights. I'm keeping my peace. Thank you. For showing me who I never want to be again. See. No bitterness. No cruelty. Just the truth. That's the thing about revenge. It's not always about watching someone fall apart. Sometimes, it's just about building a better life in full view of the person who never believed you could. Mariella messaged me a few times after the dust settled. I miss you. I made a mistake. You were right about everything. I read them, but I never replied. I wasn't angry anymore. I just didn't care. Her opinion didn't matter. Her validation, her apologies, her regrets, they were ghosts. I was done haunting myself with them. A few months later, I launched a small fund for first-time founders from blue-collar backgrounds. Plumbers, electricians, welders, laborers, people like I'd been. Smart folks with big ideas, just needing someone to believe in them. I called it Stupid Rich Ventures. Little inside joke. It caught on more than I expected. Local press picked it up. Tech blogs wrote think pieces. I even got invited to speak on a panel in Austin about building success outside of Silicon Valley. I walked up to that stage wearing a plain t-shirt, jeans, and steel-toe boots. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. A year after everything, I was sitting at that same cafe with Camila again. This time it wasn't just coffee. We were planning a trip to Vancouver, maybe further. Seeing where things went. No pressure. You really did it, she said, stirring her tea. Yeah, I smiled. Guess I'm stupid rich now. She laughed. And so did I. Not because of the money. Not because of the house, or the fund, or the articles. But because I was finally, fully, free. From her. From the doubt. From the need to prove myself to anyone but me. And that was worth more than $8.3 million. That was everything. Months passed. Life had finally settled into something that felt real. The Denver loft started to feel like home. Mornings were quiet. Coffee brewed slow. And for the first time in years, I wasn't waking up with a knot in my chest or pretending everything was fine. It was fine. Better than fine. I took up hiking again. Read books without skipping pages. Cooked dinner for myself. Sometimes Camila joined, sometimes not. It wasn't about getting over Mariella anymore. It was about getting back to me. And I liked who I found. One afternoon, while sorting through some papers, I came across the old notepad I used to scribble startup ideas on. Torn corners, coffee stains, wild doodles. There, in thick red ink, were the words, "Nobody cares. Just build it." I smiled. A few days later, I got a message from Spencer. Spencer, so, Mariella's moving to Arizona. Her company didn't renew her contract. Something about an internal investigation? Clive's officially divorced. Guy's broke. Real poetic, man. I stared at the message for a minute. Not out of pity. Not out of satisfaction, even. Just peace. I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. She had laughed at my dream, embarrassed me in front of friends, cheated on me with her boss, and mocked the very thing that would become my freedom. But now I was free. And she got exactly what she gave. Not through revenge. Through reality. That night, Camila and I sat out on the rooftop, sharing a bottle of wine under the Denver skyline. I heard someone say once, she murmured, that healing isn't about going back to who you were. It's about becoming someone who can live with what happened. I nodded. Then I'm there. She leaned against my shoulder. What now? Now. I smiled. Now I live the life she said I couldn't. And I did. Not to spite her, but to honor myself. Because in the end, my greatest revenge wasn't the money, the success, or even the freedom. It was learning to love the man I'd fought so hard to become.